All right, Steve Jobs time is officially 6 o'clock. So I'm going to go ahead and get us kicked off here. I see that the first order is to call to order. I'm just going to double check and make sure that we have quorum, but from my count, we do. Erica, can you confirm?
We do.
Wonderful, thank you. So next up on our agenda this evening is the Pledge of Allegiance. Patrick, would you mind leading us this evening?
No problem. I pledge allegiance to the flag, the
United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands,
one
one
nation,
nation, under
under
God,
God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Patrick. All right, then let's go ahead and head into a roll call.
Director Craig?
Here.
Director Collins? Director Collins?
Yes, I'm here.
And then Director Phillips?
Here.
Director Rocha? Oh, he looks like he just joined. I'm going to move him over. Director Rocha?
Here.
Director Silva?
Here, finally.
Ooh, perfect timing. Alternate Vice President Tipton?
President.
Vice President Cromings?
Here.
And President Lopez.
Here, thank you so much. With that, it shows that I believe we have everybody here this evening, right?
Correct.
Great show. All right. I'm going to go ahead and make a couple announcements here in Spanish. Para todos que necesitan los servicios de interpretación, están disponibles en el número 1-425-436-6345 con el código 444666. There was no public comment mailed in today, so at this point, I'm going to go ahead and kick off with our general manager comments, which we'll head over to Patrick first and see if we have any comments at this point.
Just a couple of quick comments. One, we don't need to go into closed session tonight. We have nothing new to report on that, so there'll be no need for closed session. And the second is in your packet, we provided an article. We were a feature article in this month's Biocycle, which is a industry magazine around both composting, bioenergy, and all things organic. So it was really a great honor to have our agency and our organics program featured in that article. So if you haven't had a chance to read it, I would definitely encourage you to do that. It gives you a lot of background about all the work that your staff's doing out at our facilities and out in the community. So that concludes my comments for tonight.
Thanks, Patrick. Any department heads here want to make some comments to the board?
No comments for me tonight.
Oh, President Lopez, Mandy
you,
Brooks,
Susan.
if I could
Yes,
make
Mandy.
a few comments.
Please.
Great. Just as a reminder that we have Tire Amnesty event that's happening at all of our facilities currently, and that will run through the end of May. We are starting Earth Month with April here, and we have an event that will happen before our next board meeting. So I just wanted to remind everyone that we have another Earth Day Compost Challenge, which will all be virtual through our website. But then we also will be at the Earth Day beautification event at Natividad Creek Park after Earth Day, which will happen on May 8th. And then as a reminder, there is the joint King City South County community meeting that will happen online next Wednesday, I believe the 21st, and that's discussing waste management and the smart truck technology. That's all I had. Thanks.
Thank you, Mandy. Anybody else? Okay, hearing none, we'll go ahead and move forward in our agenda to board director comments. We'll use the raise hand function for this and see if anybody has comments they wish to share this evening with the full board. See a hand up from Rob Cullen. Rob, floor is yours.
Thank you, and apologize, my camera's off. I had a very minor surgery on my face, and I'd rather not present my lightly surgeoned face on camera. So that's why my camera off. I apologize for that. Mandy, thank you for announcing that meeting next week. This is good because now no one will have an excuse for not knowing that the public forum is going to be on April 21st. It's 5 to 6 p.m. And the primary subject will be surrounding the smart truck technology, but there's going to be a few other topics. And I know, Chris, you're going to be speaking. I'll be speaking briefly. Kristen will be on as well. We'll have a presentation and then give the public an opportunity to provide their input on it. So April 21st, 5 to 6 p.m. and we can get that information. There's flyers out and we get the information to any interested board members. And that is all. Thank you.
Thank you, Rob. I'll just echo those comments. I think it's going to be a good one. And we've got a lot of community interest, so we're looking forward to hearing the input. Any other comments this evening? All right, see no hands going up. We'll close that portion of our agenda and head down to our public comment. This is an opportunity for the public to make comments regarding items not on today's agenda. We ask that you use the raise hand function, which is at the bottom of your screen or at the bottom of your participants tab, depending on your version of Zoom, or *9 via landline to raise your hand to let us know you wish to be recognized. *6 will unmute you. Seeing no hands going up, we'll close the public comment portion of our agenda and head into the next item, which is our consent agenda, which are items 1 through 8. I'll see if there's a desire from any directors to pull items from tonight's consent agenda. Okay, not hearing any.
Move approval, Craig.
Got a motion from
I'll second
Director
Tipton.
Craig, the second from Tipton. We'll see if we have any public comment on this portion. Again, we ask that you use the raise hand function to let us know that you wish to pull an item. Seeing no hands going up, I'll close the public comment on the consent agenda and bring it back for a roll call vote.
Hey, Director Craig,
Aye.
Director Collin,
Aye.
Director Jimenez,
Yes.
Director Phillips,
Aye.
Director Rocha,
Yes.
Director Silva,
Aye.
Alternate Vice President Tipton,
Aye.
Vice President Cromings,
Yes.
and President Lopez.
Yes, the item carries unanimously, bringing us to our next item on the agenda, which is a public hearing. It's to approve a resolution regarding the disposal and service fees effective July 1st, 2021. Ray, that's going to be yours. So we'll kick it over to Ray Hendrix.
We're not doing South Street first, item 8.
President Lopez, you skipped item 8, the presentation.
Oh, I apologize. That showed up as consent on my version of the agenda. I must have had an old version. My apologies. Then I did state that consent was 1 through 8. So my apologies. We'll go ahead and take item 8 at this point, which is the Sun Street Transfer Relocation Project. And I'm assuming that's going to go to Patrick and Steve Kerrigan. Thank you.
Well, my comments will be fairly brief, just to keep the board appraised of the discussions, negotiations going on between both authority staff and city staff, as well as authority and the Republic. So we did have a very productive meeting last week with City Manager Kerrigan, Public Works Director Dave Jacobs, and myself and Caesar. And just want to report that we're trying to move forward, and the intent of last week's meeting was really to try to identify all the key components for moving forward with the relocation. There's a lot of pieces involved in this. It's not just the relocation, it's the city's negotiations with Republic, some of the components in there, one of which we'll be talking about during the rate hearing, which is the equalization of green waste rates, which is on the table as part of those negotiations with the city and their hauler, as well as the particulars about how the project would be designed going forward. So we're going to continue those meetings. Again, I think I've been very pleased with the progress, the collaboration with the city staff, and look forward to getting this thing to a conclusion sometime soon. So with that, I'm going to turn this over and give Steve an opportunity, if you could, he's already been brought in, give Steve an opportunity to introduce himself to the board and sort of speak from the city's perspective on where we're at with our discussions and sort of the view ahead of where we're going. Steve, it's all yours.
So Steve, just you have your camera off and you're on mute, just FYI.
There we go. There we go. Is that better?
Very much so.
Okay, thank you. It's a pleasure to meet all of you. It's still kind of awkward with Zoom. I'm looking forward to meeting each one of you in person. I just passed my 100-day mark here at City Manager, which is amazing to me because it's been a ride, a fun ride. Everybody in Salinas has made me feel very welcome here, and that's something I won't ever forget. During the interview process, and since I've been here, one of the top priorities of the City Council was to get a deal done with solid waste, and this has been, along with homelessness, the two biggest issues that I've been involved in. So early on, I got out with Jim Pia, our Assistant City Manager. We went out to Sun Street, and Patrick gave me a tour of the facility. After we finished there, we went over to Madison Lane and met up with Steve McCaffrey, got a look at that facility. Shortly after that, got a chance to sit down with Patrick and Cesar on 2 occasions, kind of set the groundwork and the framework to get a deal done. What's really important is that both of those meetings, we made the commitment that we would get a deal done. And I know I'm new, it's kind of a new set of eyes. I know there's a lot of history. Some of the meetings have been contentious. I understand that, but we've had 2 very good meetings. I'm very, very encouraged. I'm actually real excited about getting this done because I know a lot of people want to see this work get done. What does complicate the matter is we're working on a new franchise agreement with Republic, and there is some overlay on the items, but just makes it a little more interesting. But I'm very, very confident that we can get this done, and I'm comfortable asking for 90 days. I know that that might make some people raise an eyebrow, but just listening to David Jacobs, our Public Works Director, who is the lead on the negotiations with Republic, we feel we're close. We feel we're real close. And Patrick and Cesar and I, Jim Pia, David, we've gotten together a couple times, like I mentioned. I really don't think we're that far off. It's just we have to work through a few issues. Not easy. It is complicated, but I feel very confident in introducing myself to you. Also, just stressing that this is important to the council. It's very important to me as a city manager, and I think we're close. So I'm asking for support, patience, and 90 days. So with that, I will send it back. And I really am looking forward to meeting each one of you in person. So thank you.
Thank you, Steve. I appreciate that. So with that, I think we'll open up for questions.
Great. We'll go ahead and go by hands raised, and the first hand I see is Mayor Craig.
I just want to acknowledge, I just want to acknowledge, I'm very grateful for the fact that Steve understands the significance of this. I've had a couple of conversations with directors with Solid Waste Authority so far, and really understand that I left in 2018 and we were moving one direction, and in the last, 20 some odd months, it has slowed down significantly. And so I'm grateful that Mr. Kerrigan recognizes the significance and the urgency in getting a deal done, and that the council and that I particularly as the mayor have asked for that to move forward. And I'm also grateful to you, Patrick, for really committing to Madison Lane and really recognizing that both the Salinas Valley Recycles and the city of Salinas is really trying to make Madison Lane be the option. So just grateful for that. I understand that was a very significant topic in the last meeting, and I'm just really pleased to see that we're moving in that direction. Thank you.
I'm going to go to Supervisor Director Phillips.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, I had a meeting with the city's people a couple of weeks ago because, as you know, I've been critical about the green waste rates and the difference in the other things. But I gotta say, I met the new city manager, Jim Pia, who I've known forever, is really dedicated to this. His father just passed away. I used to work with his dad years ago. So, and the mayor and they're all pushing forward to make sure that Madison Lane works. And so I think we all have to get behind it. And I take them at their good faith. I think they really are. We got a new regime in there, and so I'm excited. But I think we all have to make a commitment to make Madison Lane work. It looks like the only thing that may keep us all together in the right way. So I'm excited that we're moving in the right direction now. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm going to go to Rob Cullen next. Director Cullen.
Yeah, Steve, I just wanted to comment, thank you for attending our meeting tonight, and thank you for those words that you shared. I was the board president just immediately before Chris Lopez, and so I've been on the board for 14 years now. So this larger subject here, of course, has been important for many, many years, and just glad to have an open line of communication and looking forward to. And hey, when you said 90 days, man, we've waited a while now. So 90 days ain't nothing. So I'll happily wait 90 days. So I just appreciate the effort here, and we will all prevail, and we'll all win here. So thanks again.
Welcome.
Thanks, Rob. Director AVP Tipton.
Thank you. So I'm going to echo what Director Cullen just said. Is I'm looking forward to the open communication. I'm looking forward to making this happen, and I'm just really looking forward to hopefully finding the resolution to something that has been a visible problem for me for at least the last 3 years. So I'm very much looking forward to, again, continuing the open communication and hoping we can find a joint solution. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Tipton. See no other hands up. Any last minute draws? Seeing none, we're going to open this up for public comment. Again, remind the public to please use the raise hand function. If you're on a cell phone, *9 will raise your hand and let us know you wish to be recognized. Seeing no hands going up, we'll go ahead and close the public comment portion of this item and come back for additional board discussion. Again, this is just an informational item, but at this point, I just want to thank Mr. Kerrigan and Patrick for continuing the open lines of communication. We know that that's how we get progress, and I know that this is an issue that's been sticky for a while, but 90 days, as Rob said, is nothing we can't hold on for. So thank you so much for that commitment, and we look forward to some continued progress. Any final thoughts from other directors? Drew.
So I was debating asking this or not. I was actually talking with Patrick about this earlier today, and I've just got one it's kind of a pointed question. And I'm wondering if there's anything right now that's actually keeping the city of Salinas from allowing Republic to opt out of the agreement for the equalization of the waste monies.
Can you repeat the question? I'm sorry.
So I'm asking if what in particular is actually keeping the city of Salinas from just saying to Republic, yes, you can go ahead and opt out of that agreement. Because I was told that it is not a 3-party agreement, it's only a 2-party agreement, but Republic is insisting on making it a 3-party agreement.
If I may, I think we can get that question answered. We have both David Jacobs and Brian Fruz from the city of Salinas on the call. If you could, David and Brian both have their hand raised. They're attendees. If you could switch them over to panelists, I think they could answer those questions for you.
I think we can give them the ability to speak. So let's go ahead and open that up for response. If you gentlemen would do me a favor and raise your hand again. I know one was David Jacobs. So we'll go with you first, David. You should now have the ability to unmute yourself.
Yes, I got it. Thank you. Good evening, board. Yeah, the one thing that is keeping us from just telling the Republic that they can pay the new rate is it's a rate impact to our ratepayers. So it's a complete pass through, and we want to make sure that we have one rate increase for the year. So we want to tie it to a franchise agreement. So we're right now working on a new franchise agreement. We're planning to have that franchise in place in the next several months. And when that new franchise agreement is in place, and then the agreement between the authority and Republic goes away.
All right. Was there someone else? There was another hand that I missed. Was it Brian who might want to make a comment?
Oh, no. David
Okay.
speaks for both of us, I'm sure.
Great.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you. All right. Then with that, we will go ahead and consider that item received, which was item 8. And as for clarification, that was an informational item only. We're going to go back for our public hearing, which is a resolution approving the disposal and service fees effective July 1st. And now we can kick it over to Ray.
All right, this item has not changed since March, so I'll be very brief and go through it fairly quickly. There are no increases to solid waste, green waste, C&D, basically the organics programs have some deferred increases are being restored along with additional increases needed to make those programs whole. Sludge has a deferred increase being requested, and transportation surcharge has a deferred increase from last year along with a small increase. And then there's clean fill dirt that we're increasing to $68.50 to encourage customers to take their soil elsewhere because we don't have capacity to take it at this time. So that those rate changes are consistent in both packages being presented. Next slide. So the differences in the two rate packages are AB 939. The rate package with equalized rates has a $267,000 increase, which is allocated to the member agencies based on the last 3 years of landfill tonnage. And there is a second package that pays the difference from the organics rate, requires an additional $460,000 in revenue for a total of $3,460,000. Once again, allocated to the member agencies based on the last 3 years of landfill tonnage. Next slide. And staff report does have all the detail in the front, but is essentially the difference, the estimated rate impact difference between the two. That being said, without confirmation that the Republic Organics contract can be terminated before the end of the fiscal year, staff would recommend doing the non-equalized organics rate increase in order to ensure that we have a balanced budget. And once that contract is rescinded, we can address the revenue, the additional AB 939 fee, whether through deferred increases in the future or a reduction at a future time. And that is my extremely brief presentation. I apologize if everyone's seen this a few times, so I'll be happy to answer any questions or.
All right, any questions from directors for Ray? All right, we'll take it out for public comment. Any public comment on this item? Seeing no hands going up, we'll go ahead and bring it back to the board. Supervisor Phillips.
Move approval, staff recommendation.
Second.
I heard an echo there. I think it was second from Cummings. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay, so I have a motion and a second. I see additional comments. Rob?
So just to clarify, if this motion passes, will this continue the South Valley cities subsidizing the green waste rates for the city of Salinas?
It will at this time, Rob. There's if they're in the middle of negotiating with the Republic, so there's no guarantee that can be rescinded between now and the end of the year. And staff would just recommend carrying it forward another year and ensuring that we have the appropriate revenues in order to fully fund the budget.
Yeah, thank you. And to the comments made a little bit ago about that contract and such, Just so everyone's aware, and especially, folks like Steve, that I'm going to be voting no on this item for the sole reason of that subsidizing of those rates by the South Valley cities. And I know, Steve, I know you don't have the history on it, but that's been an ongoing issue for several years now. And you can imagine it's frustrating on our side that every year we're kind of told, well, you can't do this because the timing doesn't match or one reason or another. So I'm voting no, just simply for that reason. I know that if this motion fails, it means that we don't have a balanced budget, but still, this is an issue that we continue to be just kind of, I feel like, held hostage in a way for many years now. So that's why I will be voting no.
Thank you, Rob. I see a hand up from Mayor Craig.
Thank you. So, I just want to say, like, this is one of those things that occurred many years ago, and it happens every year, and we're trying to rectify it. And what I will say is that if we do pass with equalized rates, I want this board to understand that we will be in a deficit. Republic will not pay the $50 tonnage rate until the franchise agreement is in place. And so passing what Ray is recommending as a non-equalized organics disposal rate increase is where we pass the budget and it's balanced. I'm not sitting here trying to do anything that's beneficial to the city of Salinas. I'm just trying to get you guys to understand it'll be made whole on the back end. And I think Patrick would agree with me that that's how that works. I think it's very misleading to say that, the South County or the North County constituents have to subsidize. I mean, we make up for it in AB 939 fees. We make up for it in many other areas. And so my request for you is just to really recognize that this isn't the city of Salinas trying to strong arm or muscle. It's an agreement that we have in place that we're trying to fix. And I don't think punishing the Solid Waste Authority staff in not passing a budget is out of principle is the right thing to do. And that's all. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Craig. I'm going to go to Drew Tipton next.
Actually, I will let Patrick speak first, and then I will follow that.
Okay, Patrick, you're next.
I agree that, with Ray's comments and Director Craig's comments that, we need a budget balanced and passed, hopefully tonight, for the benefit of our haulers, all of our member agencies. I know this is a tough subject, and I've been very opinionated over this over the years, but I do believe, based on our conversations with the city staff, that they are genuinely and collaboratively committed to making this work. And I know, negotiating a franchise agreement extension and all the bells and whistles that go with it is an extremely time-consuming and daunting task. And I know that this has rolled into that, and we've known that the green waste rates would have to be dealt with in their current or new franchise agreement. So, I would concur with passing the non-equalized rates this year. And just so the record is clear on this, when we do it the way we're proposing to do it through 939 fees, Salinas is picking up 60% of their subsidy because their ratepayers are paying that higher AB 939 fee. They're not picking up all of it, and so the balance is actually being picked up on the backs of the remaining ratepayers. But it's not like it's the full subsidy; it's just a portion of it. So again, I think based on the conversations we've had and the commitments that have been made tonight and during our meetings, I would recommend the board move forward with that.
Thank you, Patrick. I'm going to go to AVP Tipton next.
Thank you. I'd actually like to present an alternate motion, and that's that we approve the non-equalized rate increase, provided that the city of Salinas can provide a written document stating that this will not need to be discussed next year.
Okay, so you're making an alternative motion.
Yes.
Well,
All right,
what
I'm
the
not
heck?
hearing-
I'll second that motion.
Um, sorry, I don't mean to interrupt, but
Council.
we can't take consideration of the alternative motion until the first motion is voted on, since it's already been made and seconded.
I was of the
Um,
impression that an alternate motion would replace that, and that's the
Yeah.
way we run it. That's the way we run it, according to our city attorney. It's an
Typically-
Say
alternate
what the board
measure.
assumes, but I'm gonna ask what the council's opinion is on the bylaws of the Solid Waste Authority.
Typically, the maker of the first motion would consent to the alternative motion. I mean, I'll double check the Robert's rules, but
Double
that's my
check. I know at the
understanding.
county, we take up the alternative motion first.
Let me see here.
Yeah,
Point
we'll
of
give you a
order, I
second
think.
there.
Point of order, I think what you're trying to do is a substitute motion, not an alternative motion.
Yeah, no, I think
Substitute
that
motion takes precedence over the second motion. An alternative motion is one that somebody has a different motion entirely. So if Mr. Tipton would like to present
This
a
is-
substitute motion, it would take precedence over the first motion.
Fine, then I amend my statement to be a substitute motion.
Yeah, that's correct. Substitute goes ahead versus alternative.
Oh, point of clarification, can it be in the form of an email?
That would still, in my opinion, be considered to be written, yes.
May I have a moment to confer with my staff?
Yeah. So we're at
Thank you.
6:31. I'm gonna give us a bio break till 6:35. We'll reconvene at 6:35. At this point, we are on recess until 6:35. Okay, we're at 6:35. I'm gonna go ahead and call us back to order. And I'm gonna, for the sake of the argument that we're having here, I'm gonna take it back to Mayor Craig first. Mayor Craig?
Thank you. I appreciate it. And thank you for the minor break so that I can talk with staff. We're happy to provide it in writing that it will occur within 1 year.
I'm gonna go to Supervisor Director Phillips next.
I'm good if everybody else is good with that, so.
All right. All right, I'm looking around here and seeing that we have a substitute motion, and I just want to confirm the substitute motion was made, but I didn't hear the second on that. Rob, does your second stand?
Yes, it does.
Okay, so there's a motion and a second, a substitute motion. So with that, we'll go ahead and one more time, just for making sure, for council's sake, make sure we got the public comment one more time on the proposed language here. Seeing no hands going up, I'll close public comment and bring it back and ask for a roll call vote.
Director Craig?
Yes.
Director Collin?
Yeah, and just a quick comment before I vote, and I will be voting yes, but I just wanted to say that a few minutes ago, I said on the original motion, I was going to vote no, but after listening to everyone, and I appreciate all those comments, I was going to reverse my original comment and vote yes. And really it's in because I see the good faith effort that the city of Salinas is making with this change in regime and such. And I so much appreciate that. And I appreciate Director Tipton's alternate motion here and Mayor Craig supporting that. So for all of those reasons, I will vote yes, and thank you all, and looking forward to moving on here.
Thank you, Rob.
Director Jimenez?
Yes.
Director Phillips?
Aye.
Director Rocha?
Yes.
Director Silva?
Yes.
Alternate Vice President Tipton?
I'm going to do the same thing that Rob said and just make a quick comment here. Is the only reason I really asked for this is because I too see that Salinas is trying to step up and do the right thing. But I know at least I've heard it for the last 3 years, and I appreciate very much seeing it in writing that you're committing to making it happen. So I'm very much proud to vote yes on this.
Vice President Cromings?
Yes.
And President Lopez?
Yes, the motion carries. Thank you so much, everybody. I just want to say that I too see the change in leadership at the city of Salinas. I appreciate Mayor Craig's leadership, as well as, we've got new council members in Rocha and so many others, and we see the leadership and the shift in their commitment to working with us. And so I have carried that frustration that the rest of the South County cities have over these last few years. I do appreciate this forward motion and the ability to work together towards these solutions. So thank you for your energy, for your time, and for helping us work on something that we can all support. I think it's a good thing we're moving together in this, so thank you. With that, we will go ahead and consider number 9 complete and head to item 10, which is to receive a report from Ray Hendrix, our favorite numbers guy. Back to you, Ray.
All right, I will be brief on this one, as the numbers haven't changed since January. There's a few more slides, so it won't be quite as brief as the first one. Just to review the budget assumptions, have the final rate increase for the organics program that was approved in 2017. Going forward, we're expecting to do minor CPI adjustments to the organics program just to keep the revenue whole and to continue to pay those increases as they go along. Initial implementation of SB 1383 requirements. The original budget had equalization of organics rates for all member agencies, but there was the alternate revenue in there, and the implementation of the organics wood waste recovery sort line, and there were no other program changes in the budget. Next slide, please. Okay, so we are looking at a balanced budget, $23.3 million in revenues and $23.3 million in expenditures. with a estimated balance used for reserve of just under $7,000. Next slide, please. So the revenue increases are $460,000, which was the AB 939 rate increase. Increases in organics program are 275,000. Transportation surcharge of $1 that was just approved along with some additional tonnage at South County. It's 271,000. The first part of the AB 939 fee is $267,000, and that funds the implementation of SB 1383 as well as some continuing increases in cost. Decrease in tonnage, so total revenues at just shy of 1.1 million. Next slide, and I apologize, I'll go a little faster, so hopefully everyone remembers most of this. Payroll budget increases 333,000, so that's COLA, merit, health insurance premiums. And we did have one-time funds of PERS unfunded liabilities, so when you look at the comparative budget, the difference is 161,000, but the actual cash portion is 333,000. Next slide. There are 2 new positions in the budget: an equipment maintenance technician with salary and benefits of 151,000, and that's we have 1 new position in this past year, and our fleet's just too large for 1 person, so we're requesting a 2nd person, and now it's going to be paid through savings in the equipment maintenance budget and a resource recovery technician in order to help with the SB 1383 implementation, and that was part of the AB 939 increase. Next slide. So total budget increases, the 333,000 in payroll, insurance increases. We had unexpected increases in this past year. So we cut around the edges, but we need to restore some budgets, plus budget for some incremental increases. SB 1383 implementation of 208,000. So that does include the new body, CPI increase for the organics programs, full state and regional fees. So total operating budget increase of just shy of 900,000. Next slide. Debt service, we have 10 more years of debt service. Currently we're paying 3.1 million. That will go down in a few years to 2.9 million. Once we pay for 2014B, which is the crazy horse bond. Next slide. So changes in the CIP budget. We try to fund everything over time in order to equalize things as best as we can. So post-closure is going up about 15,000. Organics recovery program is going up to 50,000, and the 250,000 going forward should be enough to manage the equipment replacement going forward. We did add a roadway maintenance improvement CIP of $100,000. We just finished the Iverson Road, and now we're just going to set aside money for whatever roadway improvements we need at our sites, and then small amount for Holland Road transfer station improvements. So the total CIP budget is 2.7 million. We also set aside $5 per ton in the operating budget. So that estimate is $1 million, and we'll carry that over in September when we do our typical CIP carryovers. Next slide. Okay, so this is where it's a little bit different. So 5-year operating projections, flat landfill tonnage, the equivalent of $1 tipping fee increase. I'm showing it at AB 939 service fee. The projections started with the equalized rate one, so the numbers are a little off, but the result isn't much different. So the equivalent about $1 increase with CPI increases to transportation and the organics program going forward. With debt service coverage ratios of about 187,000. So operating budget, this assumes about a 2% CPI increase, the budget going forward. Next slide. And then the capital improvement plan, as I mentioned earlier, we try to do this as flat as we can. So the 21 proposed budget is 2.7 million and should remain fairly flat going forward. Next slide. So leaving budget narrow margins, but leaving a surplus of around 10,000. And now And it's all fully funded with the rate increase, with the rate hearing that was just approved. So now I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions for Ray? Okay, seeing none, we'll take it out for public comment. Any public comment on this presentation? See no hands going up on the public side, we'll bring it back. What we're asked to do this evening is to pass a resolution approving the operating budget, the personnel allocation and salary schedule for 21-22.
This is Rob. I'll move approval.
Tipton will second.
Got a motion from Cullen, second from Tipton. Any additional comments? Hearing none, let's take a roll call vote.
Director Craig,
Yes.
Director Cullen,
Yes.
Director Jimenez,
Aye.
Director Phillips,
Aye.
Director Rocha,
Yes.
Director Silva,
Aye.
Alternate Vice President Tipton,
Aye.
Vice President Cromines,
Yes.
and President Lopez.
Yes, the motion carries. Thank you so much. We've adopted the resolution and we'll head into item 11, which is a resolution approving amendment number 3 to the lease with Nexus Partners LLC and Friedrich Family Limited Partnership, authorizing a 2 or 3 year extension. For that, we'll kick it over to Patrick.
This is fairly straightforward. Our lease expires at the end of this year. We reached out to the landlord and asked for 3 proposals, a 1-year, 2-year, 3-year lease, knowing that the relocation is coming and that at some point we will be either building our own permanent offices, which would be our preference, or finding another long-term space for offices for the authority operations. So I think at this point, after discussion with the executive committee, we all collectively felt that 1 year was probably too short because assuming we are moving to Madison Lane, there may be some options actually for acquisition of property or construction of office space, either on the Madison Lane transfer station property or on adjacent properties in the vicinity. So we'd like to see that sort of go through and understand that. So we are recommending either a 2 or a 3-year lease. The landlord's been very clear, as he was with the last one, that the family ownership of the property, may be considering sale in the future. And so whatever we get, that's the only thing that we're guaranteed. So we don't want to be short-sheeted and have to move out prematurely before some of the other activities we're working on around relocation are completed. So we just like to have a general discussion with the board, and we have both a resolution for a 2 and a 3-year extension and an agreement attached to each of those, and have the board provide that direction to staff, and we'll execute the appropriate agreement and get that over to the landlord. So the caveat here is obviously, you see within the staff report, a 3-year agreement basically keeps our rates flat. There's only a few dollar a month increase. And then with shorter terms, 2-year, 1 year, then the annualized cost goes up a little bit. So you can see there's a small difference in those rates as we go to shorter terms. So we're looking for some direction and discussion on this item.
Okay, thank you, Patrick. Thoughts from directors, and we'll start with Mayor Craig.
So I appreciate you bringing it forward. I just am curious, as I was reading through the staff report, if the lease is not up until December. Am I correct in saying that?
Correct.
So is there a reason it's coming for approval and renewal so early in the year?
Well, if we wait too long in the year, then finding a replacement space is going to be pretty challenging, and having to relocate. And I think the discussion has been about trying to find property that we could build to suit, or ready-made offices that we could actually have a permanent agency office instead of just leasing space all the time. So we want to pursue that, and we have been starting to look at options for that possibility, as well as additional long-term lease space. But we've always done this, come back early in the year that it's expiring, so that we're not waiting till the last minute and things can change, especially with the ownership of this property. Sort of starting to think around the possibility of, selling or doing something else with the property. So we don't want to get caught not having office space and having the ownership change their mind. So getting that lease tied up early, I think is in our best interest.
So through the chair, if I may, just a follow-up question. So if I'm misunderstanding, please clarify for me. I want to make sure. So the property owners are willing to put together a 3-year lease for the Solid Waste Authority, but what you're saying is if we don't sign it immediately, we could be potentially kicked out of the space. Is that what I'm hearing?
Well, we have to make a decision if we're going to extend it. They've extended offers to us. And they have been candid about the fact that there's been discussions about possibly the family wanting to sell the property, though it hasn't happened. We've heard that off and on for a couple of years now. So there's a little bit of a risk there if we hold off and wait longer. The other side of this is finding another office space right now and doing relocation to a place that may not be our forever home or our long-term home, would just be very disruptive. So I'd like to see us sort of just make one move from here to wherever we're going to be for the long term.
Okay, so then, and I apologize, through the chair, I just want to make sure I'm clear. So I certainly understand that. I don't want the authority jumping around either, but I'm wondering if there might be some room, and so I'm asking this of you directly, Patrick, because of all of the moving parts that we have, and particularly because of Mr. Kerrigan's statement that, if you can give us 90 days, I'm wondering if we could table the discussion, because honestly, I certainly see the difference in numbers, and I'm not trying to do anything other than just recognize that if we sign a 2 or 3 year lease agreement, and if we're going to be making some changes or make some serious progress in the next 90 days, I'm wondering, does it affect us to bring it back in July or to bring it back, in June to discuss, and it's still 6 months ahead of when the lease agreement is up? I have some hesitance about signing a 2-year lease agreement when we're on the cusp of finalizing everything. And, Steve's delivered on everything he has promised thus far. And so if he's saying 90 days, I fully feel like he can actually deliver on that. And so, and I have both of the leads from our Public Works Department on the call right now backing that up. So I'm just wondering if this board would consider tabling it for 60 to 90 days and bring it back so that we have a better idea of what our next steps are, particularly with Madison Lane, particularly with the authority. The idea is to move the Salinas Valley Solid Waste Authority out of the center of town. And so signing a 3-year lease agreement or even a 2-year lease agreement makes me a little uncomfortable. But I also recognize, it's not going to happen by September. And I certainly recognize that, but I'm wondering if this board would entertain possibly tabling the discussion for that amount of time, 60 to 90 days.
Thank you, Mayor Craig. We have some other hands up, so I'm going to go through those. I see Rob Collins' hand up.
Yeah, thank you. And thank you, Mayor Craig, for those comments. They make a lot of sense. This is a tough one when we've got these question marks going on. I'm trying to scan through the draft lease agreement. I haven't found it yet. Let's say we did a 2-year lease and then we broke that lease at month 18, or pick a month. What is the penalty for breaking the lease?
Well, I don't have the agreement in front of me. It would be in the master agreement, not.
Yeah, okay, that's why I'm not seeing it. Here's
Yeah.
because my perspective, and I do even, and I appreciate the comments, even though it's the lease goes for another, what, 8 months, but we can't be left high and dry, and especially in a big complex lease like this. My inclination is for us to do a 2-year lease, but I would like to know, and the primary reason for that is a 1-year lease, and it's not so much the savings of a 1 year versus a 2 year, it's more, I just think realistically, are we going to be able to move out within a year from December 31st, 2021? I don't see that happening. So I'm inclined to suggest a 2-year lease, but would like to know what the penalties are. So perhaps perhaps we bring it back next meeting. I would imagine that wouldn't present too many issues to the landlords there, and then we can get a little bit more clarity on the penalty. So that's my suggestion.
Thank you, Director Cullen. Director Supervisor Phillip.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, that was my number one. I've never been crazy about the offices there. I don't think it's and especially if we move Sun Street out of there like we're talking about. So I'd like to see offices somewhere else, downtown Salinas or out at Madison Lane, if that was feasible. But I guess my question, and I have a concern to get locked into a 3 or even in some ways 2-year at least if we're going to be able to move out of there sooner. But Patrick, what's your thought if we knew that Madison Lane was going to work in 2 months or 3 months? How long would it take us to move out of there? Could it be done in a year, do you think?
Well, yeah, and I think I want to sort of clarify and separate the two discussions, because I think they are somewhat separate in a lot of ways. So this is administrative office. It's not tied directly to the transfer station. It is next to it. That's convenient. That's always benefit to have your administrative offices and your operating facilities side by side. Not necessarily has to happen. Particularly if there's a transition going on, which still has some uncertainty around timeline. And I think my biggest concern is timeline. How long is it going to take for Republic Services to get the entitlements for us to relocate? And that's still an unknown question that I know the city staff and Republic are having discussions with the county on. So want to sort of separate those, us keeping the offices there for some period of time. The transfer station operation itself, once Republic has the entitlements, we've told city staff, I think we've said this to the board as well, we think we could move in about 6 months. We don't have a lot of hard stuff on the ground that has to be moved. And the general structure of our part of the operations at Madison are fairly simple and straightforward. So we don't see the timing for actually the operational move to be really lengthy. And my only concern, and I think if we wait a month, that's fine. I can go talk to the landlord a little bit and sort of get a sense for not just the penalty, which I think is already in the agreement. We can report back on that. But it's really sort of this uncertainty that we keep hearing, that there's some discussions around the ownership. And if we do a short-term lease and they decide to sell it, well, there's no guarantee we're going to be able to stay. If we bind ourselves with a lease and they sell it in between, our lease carries forward to the new owners, and we're sort of protected that way. So that's why we're sort of raising the issue of, we've got 3 options here in front of us. We can do a 1-year lease. We might be able to make this all work. We do have identified a couple of potential properties that if there's a willing seller, we could potentially build permanent offices in the vicinity. But we haven't had any hard conversations yet. We were waiting for the letter of intent to be executed by both Republic and the authority before we really start to look hard and fast for permanent office space. So we can go both directions. There is a small risk, I think, with the ownership, that if we do a short lease, we could end up getting bumped out of there before we're ready. But we can talk with the landlord and see what they, what their sense is about a shorter term lease, because they said they'll continue to work with us. So, but if it's a 1-year lease and they decide to sell in that 1-year period, then, we may not be the next tenant. That's the risk.
Thank you. I would probably favor going with Rob Cullen's suggestion of putting over a month or two to really see where we are then and where we might be. So
I would agree with that.
Thank you, Mayor Craig. Hands still up. Any additional comments, Mayor Craig? All right, we're going to go to Drew.
Thank you. I just had one quick question for Patrick, and that's if we did decide to build out a new office compound, how long would that construction take? Because I think that needs to be built into our thinking as well. So if it's going to take us 18 months to even build a building, then looking at a 1-year or even a 2-year lease may not be an option at that point if we're looking at moving to a new permanent home. I think that's one of the things that needs to be taken into consideration as well.
Yeah, that, and it's really, it's the issue of whether we find build to suit properties or we buy, say, a condo office or something where we can actually physically buy an office space that's already been developed if there's something on the market. So we have started to explore that. We've identified, I said, properties where we could build, but also starting to look at just the general market for both leases and already constructed office space. Again, we don't need tons of space. We're looking, this will be a discussion for the board when we get into that. A little bit of a charrette process where we look at, what are the needs of the board and the agency. We've had this discussion before about, do we have our own boardroom or do we continue to always meet in Gonzales? And, that'll drive office space. But yeah, we're looking at a modest office space of probably 8,000 square feet plus or minus that would accommodate the agency well into the future. So that's where we're starting our look. But you are correct. If we do a build to suit, and it just depends on, again, the development entitlements on that property, whether we could go right in without a massive amount of CEQA permitting work and just, get going very quickly on a project. You're probably talking easily 18 months when you include acquisition and real property transactions on top of the construction and design. And it could be longer depending on where it is, but I think that's probably a reasonable number to throw out for just a simple office space construction.
Thank you, Patrick. I'm going to go to Director Rocha.
I agree with Director Cullen and Mayor Craig that, we should probably wait on this for a little bit, especially we have several moving pieces on it. So would you all like to entertain a motion to table this item? I'll make that. I move.
Do you want to put that to a meeting certain? I mean, do you want it reconsidered in 1 month?
I'd be okay reconsidering it in 3 months.
In 3 months, we do not have a meeting in July. We have only 2 meetings, the May and the June meeting before we take our July recess. So that would either need to be 2 months or 4 months.
Would it be a huge burden to look at this in the August meeting?
I'll tell you what, I think we can just table it. And you can give me a month or a date. I will talk with the landlord about if there's any risk with doing that. I think their concern right now is simply they want to make sure they have tenants. And, I got to find out.
We'll just table the item and then bring it back when appropriate after conversations. All right. So that's a motion from Director Rocha. Do I have a second?
I'll second Tipton.
Okay, got a second from Tipton. I'm going to take it out for public comment. Any public comment on this item? Seeing no hands going up, I'm going to close the public comment and bring it back and ask for a roll call vote.
Director Craig?
Yes.
Director Cullen?
Aye.
Director Jimenez?
yes.
Director Phillips?
Aye.
Director Rocha?
Yes.
Director Silva?
Aye.
Alternate Vice President Tipton,
Aye.
Vice President Cromings,
Yes.
and President Lopez.
Yes. Motion carries. Thank you so much. With that, we're at our look ahead. And so we'll kick that back to Patrick.
You can pull that up, Erica. So next month, we go into that period of time where we're actively getting a lot of things prepped up for the new fiscal year. So we'll be coming back, talking a little bit about a recent proposal we received from our landfill gas energy vendor, Amoresco, looking at a joint project to utilize the rest of the landfill gas that's not currently being used for power production. There's some new options and opportunities on the horizon for biogas. So looking at a joint project with themselves and another company, and potentially some of our large ag processors for generating biogas from culls and combining that with the excess landfill gas and creating pipeline quality or fuel quality LFG for fleets and domestic use. So it's an exciting project that's been sort of brewing in the background, and they're ready to come forward and start to talk a little bit about it. So we'll see that presentation next month. Mandy will be giving these fairly periodically, actually, updates on 1383 progress. Our first TAC meeting will be coming up next month. So we'll be going on that. And then something we haven't done for a very long time, which is a primer on landfill development. As all of you know, that is still a core piece of our business and our revenue source, and just be good education for everybody to sort of understand where we're heading with the landfill, its lifespan, how landfills are developed and designed. So Brian will be giving you guys that primer next month. And then ongoing updates on the relocation and the city notice of withdrawal. So pretty standard looking month coming forward. Anything the board would like to add to that? Or questions or changes in items you'd like to see come forward earlier, just let Erica or I know. We'd be happy to adjust the agenda.
Any questions or desires to see items in the future from directors they'd like to share now? I see a hand up from Drew.
Actually, yes, I'd like to see an update on the food waste, the yellow bins, and how we're going to be rolling that out as well. I know we've already got a couple of people here in town that are doing it, and I'd actually like to have that shared with the rest of the board.
Great. We can, Mandy can definitely emphasize that in her SB 1383 update next month. So make sure she's hearing this. So I know she's nodding her head saying yes. I'll make sure I cover that for you.
Thank you, Mandy. All right. Anybody else? Oh, got some feedback there. I'm going to go ahead and see if we have any public comment on this look ahead schedule. Seeing none, we'll close the public comment portion. And I believe that brings us to the end of our agenda, as our last item is closed session, which we do not need today. Any final thoughts for us this evening, Patrick?
Nope, everybody, it's good to see everybody safe and happy, and you've got a fairly well vaccinated agency now. So we're all looking forward to getting some guidance that allows us to get more bodies back in the office and start to get back to something that resembles normal. So
you're here.
Absolutely.
Happy to be there.
Here.
All right. Thanks, everybody. Stay safe. We are adjourned.
All right, folks.
Good evening.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye, thank you.
Good night, everybody.
Good night.